Alright, I might as well go ahead and start it this week. Welcome everybody. So, big news this week, of course, is the EAP viewer finally went out. I know we've been threatening that for quite a while now. I think we're shooting for February the 29th and wound up with more like, February the 60th or something. But anyway, it's out and hope it's working for everybody. We have Ryder here. He was the original instigator of EAP. I know people have been thinking of EAP as kind of a collection of graphics work recently because that was the stuff that was getting fixed for the longest into the process. But I mean, what EAP really started out as is the environmental enhancement project. It was a collection of tools to help people manage their environment settings and do new cool things there. Ryder, would you be willing to give people a brief blurb on kind of what it all started out being about and what cool stuff is out there now that they might be interested in?
Sure. Originally EAP was just moving wind light into inventory, so that you didn't have to have all these XML files in some obscure location on your hard drive. You could apply an environment to your parcel, and that would be natively supported by all viewers instead of having to take up your parcel description with Firestorm's. I say kludge in the good way of putting your description there. We added onto that a number of ways for interacting with environments in scripts. So a script can be aware of the sun position and the moon position and what the ambient lighting conditions are now. We added a couple extra features that weren't in the original wind light, like the independent sun and moon. They used to be completely they used to always be fixed as 180 degrees opposite each other. Now you can have both of them in a single place. Custom textures for sun and moon. Custom textures for clouds. So that's pretty much EAP in a nutshell. Also, you could influence another agent's environments through an. So that's pretty much EAP in a nutshell.
Yeah. So congrats to all the people who've been working on it for so long.
It's nice to have it out finally.
Yeah, that's great. So, which originally was Ryder. Let's see, I'm not seeing the graphics folks here, but Euclid and Ptolemy were the big drivers on the development side for getting it out the door.
They really brought it across the finish line.
And also some great help from Dave P., who snuck in from other work to help out, and a big shout out to Dan too, who has done just a ton of QA on this over most of the time that it's been under development.
Yeah, Dan was more closely aligned with the project than I was for a long time.
Yeah, Graham had a big role in there too. Of course, he's not with us currently, but certainly appreciate all the work on that. Don't have any other particular topics for this week. Ryder said that some questions had come up at a previous meeting this week, and he thought if any of the folks here were also interested in the same topics, it might be a chance to go into more detail on those. So if anybody wants to toss those out, that's valid, or we can chat about anything else that... Ryder, did you have particular topics you wanted to bring up, or is it...
No, I was here mostly for questions on EAP or
yeah.
the stuff that came up on Wednesday, which I didn't make a note on, so I'm racking my brain as to what it was. It started off with a discussion of sRGB versus linear color spaces, and I'm not the best person to answer those questions other than you use one for lighting effects and one for use.
Yeah, the RGB and linear color spaces are something that there's a lot of work on toward the end with EAP. I know Dave P. and Euclid and Ptolemy were spending a lot of time delving into that and exposing various inconsistencies in our lighting models. So I think a lot of the late breaking fixes in the graphics had to do with those kinds of changes. But yeah, I don't know myself.
Certainly, feel free to make it here, but also file a future request, Jira. Famous last words. One of the changes in EAP had to do with how the sun and the moon how their position is determined on the sky dome, and I changed it from an east-west vector and an altitude, which is non-unique, to a quaternion. One of the reasons I did it that way was to you can plot a quaternion as a you can do what's called a slurp on a quaternion, which causes it to move through the great circle on the sky dome. That can certainly be added. I believe there is something on EAP2 on the EAP2 list to do exactly that.
Yeah, so the plan at this point is that with EAP out, the bulk of our efforts are going to be shifting over to other things, some of which are still to be determined. But we will be taking some time to address either high priority bugs that come up or high priority things that had gotten pushed out to EAP 2. So we're going to be reviewing the list. You know, Basically, a few high nail things are likely to get tackled from EAP 2, but realistically, we're not going to be doing a major EAP sequel in the near term. We are some bandwidth for other things, and obviously EAP has been consuming all the available oxygen for time, Steam especially. So. If anyone wants to ask about particular EAP issues once we've had a chance to kind of review them, we can talk about that. But just wanted to kind of throw that out there to set expectations.
Kara, absolutely file a feature request, Jira, and we can attach that to the EAP 2. The problem I was trying to solve with those controls was, position in 2D, position an object on a hemisphere, actually on a full sphere, and and if you just say it, it seems like an easy problem, but if you just say it, it seems like an easy problem, but it turns out there's some sticky wickets in there.
We had a question in chat about textures getting dropped. I haven't seen a lot of that. What I've seen is that sometimes textures fail to load fully when they should be, like especially the terrain gets stuck in a kind of a blurry state. And honestly, even when the terrain's fully loaded, it's kind of blurry. It's not really high enough pixel density. But I haven't tended to see textures sort of becoming blurrier over time so much. If it is something you're seeing consistently, it might be worth, especially if it's something that's easy to reproduce, so that we can pass it to somebody to take. If you're up against the limit of how much texture memory the viewer wants to be taking up, I think you're probably going to run into more issues with textures getting kind of stomped down because of that. I think we have some software limits on texture memory, so you may not be using all 6 gig on your card, even if the card has 6 gig available.
I think I looked at that code in the not too distant past, and that sounds right.
Yeah, I know we have a request in to change that, to raise the limit or raise the default or something, but I'm not sure how recently anybody's looked at it. Yeah, we do have an awful lot of debug settings, and it's not the intention that the normal user should have to deal with any of them, but we do have a certain number of people who are very enthusiastic about them, and a lot of them that are just hard to get rid of for one reason or another. Beck, can you hear me now? It's been pretty quiet, but people have been talking some. Okay. That sounds like a plan. The uploader changes are not in the copy paste viewer. They're in another viewer which we don't currently have in a public forum. We're trying to get that out into a project viewer next to make it publicly visible. I guess I wouldn't say it's frozen, but it's at least pretty slushy. We've got I think most of the changes we're planning to make, but if there are particular things that you want to put in a proposal for, we'll certainly take a look at it.
I was wondering if I might be able to get a status update on ARC and how that's going.
Sorry, update on what?
On the ARC project?
Oh, the Arctan project?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. So what's currently going on with that is we've been taking a look at, I think we've got somebody with an open mic. Joey, please. Yeah, what's been going on with that recently? We've been trying to do some data collection to get stats related to improving the ARC calculation. That's been blocked on a bake service update that we need to get out. Unfortunately, it's kind of gotten stuck in line behind some other high priority stuff, so been waiting on that for a bit. In the meantime, I've been spending a bit of time looking at the way we handle jelly doll rendering, trying to make that more efficient. That, I think that work will lead to some viewer improvements, but it's not directly related to actual changes in the way we calculate the cost. And then the next step after that is going to be new UI to help people control the complexity of the scene and get a better frame rate if they're getting stuck trying to render a lot of complex avatars. So there hasn't been any kind of public-facing update to that for a while, but there has been some work going on behind the scenes, and once we have something that's in a state that talking about it more here.
Cool. Thank you.
Land impact, not yet. The only thing we're planning to do for the initial phase with the ARC is update the rendering cost formula, which is purely enforced on the viewer side to decide when something exceeds the complexity threshold and isn't calculated or enforced by the simulator. It's a kind of a limitation of our kind of overall situation right now that we're not able to tackle much new work on the back end. The vast majority of resources for back end relates going to the so one thing that means requests for new LSL functions or behavior changes for land impact or anything is not likely to be happening in the near term, or at least not very much of it.
Do you have any kind of ETA for it, like with other stuff having taken precedence?
ETA for which part? For the current Arctan project?
Or when it might come into place officially?
Yeah, so just the viewer side work that we're trying to work on now. We don't have a definite date. The intent is that this isn't a extremely large project, but it also just depends on how much time we get to work on it and whether we wind up getting pulled into something else. So it's always hard to say until we can actually get it out the door. Which functions are you thinking of, Lucy? I haven't seen a lot of new LSL stuff coming along recently, but I'm not going to swear there hasn't been any. Oh yeah, the email is kind of a big deal. The problem is that there's all this sort of boring stuff having to do with email domains and spam filters and stuff, but the bottom line is that it can be tough to get emails to people, and we're trying to kind of improve our delivery reliability. Yeah, I don't think I heard about the RGB to linear. Right, was that something that got put in along with the kind of EAP release, or was that for something else?
It got put in just after. Let's see, that's coming in 447. That just got released to RC. It essentially it's just a math calculation, and for specifics, I believe Dave P. Requested them. If it had been anything other than a 10-minute project, I would have pushed back a little harder.
I can neither confirm nor deny the accuracy of Beck's summary there. I think I missed your question about the Collada import. Just a second. Uploader supports diffuse texture upload and application. Does anybody routinely use texture upload? If so, would full material support be of any real value? Yeah, that's a good question. I guess that's more a question for the group here than for me, really. I don't do a lot of uploading. Maybe the process of uploading textures with meshes should be better documented. The times I tried it, I found it completely opaque and it didn't work, so there's probably something different about the workflows of the people who are finding it easy versus impossible. Interesting question about the temp textures. Maybe we should at least kind of warn people about that. Yeah, Becca, I'd love to see updates for the documentation. I'm sure a lot of it needs to be improved. Ryder, what is the EPUI checking? You're saving environments with temp textures?
Yeah, if you try and save if you use a temp texture for clouds or water or sun and moon, I believe it will check. It will check if those are temp, and if so, prevent you from saving. That would be hard code to move over.
Uh-huh. Yeah, honestly, I'm a little skeptical of the whole concept of temp textures. It just seems like it's asking for confusion. If it it looks right to you, and so you assume it looks right to everybody else. But I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of affection for them. I guess to avoid the extra upload fees.
It's incredibly useful. I was texturing a hat, and I was able to just let me just play with the textures on the hat and change them and see how they looked before I actually uploaded.
Yeah, I guess it's not so much that the temp textures themselves are bad, but it's just it's hard to know if you're in a situation where they're getting applied and other people aren't having the same experience. So yeah, we could probably do more to expose that in the build tools. Certainly we don't have enough UI in the build tools already.
We could add a checkbox.
At some point I'm picturing you add one more checkbox into that UI and the whole thing just explodes and spews pixels all over the screen. Oh, hey, question for the Firestorm folks. Any idea how soon we might be seeing EAP support in Firestorm?
Yeah, your photo tools will have to change. You could always do what I do, Beck. Soon. Yes, exactly.
Regarding the orthographic image question, I don't know of a way to do that. Not sure how much you really have control over the structure of the camera projection. Maybe not enough to do that. That sounds like a cool tool, Beck. Do you have updates to the way that the LED auto generation works, or is this just tools to make it easier to manage LEDs that get created other ways? Yeah, it looks very neat. Alright, well, I guess we're about running out of time for this week's meeting. Probably wrap it up. Let's see, I think our current schedule is to be meeting next week. And then next month I'll be updating the schedule a bit. We've got a couple of meeting conflicts coming in, so we'll see which weeks actually will end up working out.
I'm going to run also. Thank you, everyone.